1. Introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable. Wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove, and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Hi, my name is Lily. Andrew gave you the intro to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates and their concern for air pollution from indoor residential wood burning. Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, or RAWSEP, would like every near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner whose wood smoke enters their yards and sickens the near neighbors to have a purple air PM 2.5 monitor hanging from the eaves of their home to measure the level of PM 2.5 entering their yards. That measurement of air pollution should be used as evidence of unnecessary air pollution, and each indoor residential wood burner should be shut down based on that evidence, one indoor residential wood burner at a time if necessary. The presentation by Andrew ended at 2 minutes 5 seconds. The same presentation by Emma starts at 2 minutes 3 seconds before the end of this podcast. So I am Lily, your timekeeper, and you can start the next podcast at 2 minutes 5 seconds in if you would not like to see the presentation by Andrew a second time. This presentation by me, Lily, ends at 5 minutes in. What you will see in the main content of this RAWSEP podcast will be news about air pollution from indoor residential wood burning and how that air pollution is being combated by ordinary people just like you who are unfortunately near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners at this time. There will also be news about unnecessary and highly polluting use of wood as fuel in industrial wood burners and preventable air pollution from wood burning wildfires. There will also be news about air pollution from PM 2.5 from gas-powered cars. There will also be news about airborne diseases which are also preventable with vaccines such as COVID-19 and measles and whooping cough, to name just a few. In 2025, Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates is also concerned with combating the Trump destruction of government funding for programs which protect human health through the Department of Health and Human Services, and Trump destruction of programs which fund the science and medical research plan to protect human health from preventable illnesses. Protecting human health is a patriotic act, and our defense against enemies is weakened if we are not as healthy as we can be. Heat pump rebates are now offered by the federal government, distributed through the eligible United States, are available in 2025, and are the best, cleanest, and now cheapest alternative to indoor residential wood burning if that burning is actually done to purportedly save money. Wind and solar as sources of the electricity that powers heat pumps and electric cars is also cheaper than burning wood. The adverse health effects that are caused by indoor residential wood burning also come at a cost to near neighbors, both in shortening and ending their lives, and in actual hospital, clinic, and funeral costs. Instead of being compensated monetarily, near neighbors should instead be able to achieve immediate relief by stopping indoor residential wood burning in their hyper-localized neighborhoods, which relief readings from purple air PM 2.5 monitors used as evidence of air pollution will help them achieve. Welcome to news about hopeful scientific and medical achievements that will also help us achieve the goal of clean air to breathe.
Webisode 57DHYAFT December 27, 2025 Texas Family Measles Outbreak in U.S. Largest in a Generation. In episode 57DHYAFT 1 Texas RFK Junior Lack of Knowledge of Science and Medicine RAWSEP View Measles Vaccine Misinformation leads family led by father who is a vaccine skeptic to refuse vaccines for his children. They all survive, but how many people did they pass measles on to? 2 and 3 headlines. 4 Illiteracy. America is sliding toward illiteracy. 5 Indiana Carlisle Here is how the AI crash happened. 6 Medicine and Science. The vegetative patients who are still aware. 7 New York. 4 Ticonderoga. What it takes to be a Revolutionary War reenactor. The Atlantic October 8, 2025 RAWSEP View teaching children to cook over a wood-burning open fire. Was stymied by the weather. Hallelujah. The food should have been cooked using clean energy such as by an electric stove and range powered by electricity indoors from a smart electrical grid, extending to all rural areas powered by clean energy wind, solar, or geothermal electricity, saved as needed on industrial batteries. After the food was cooked, it could be sent out to the reenactors, and the reenactors could do what they were there for, to act as if they were in the 1700s when we in actuality are in the 2020s at a time when air pollution from indoor or outdoor wood burning is obsolete for health and environmental reasons, and most importantly, in the 2020s, clean energy for home heating and cooking is cheaper for consumers than burning air polluting wood that causes illness and early death. In the 2020s, the reporter was a woman, and the editor of RAWSEP suspects that she was not allowed to reenact primarily because she was a woman. 8 Sociopaths. A defense against gaslighting sociopaths. 9 Trump idea. One word describes Trump. 10 Germany How Hitler Dismantled a Democracy in 53 days. 11 China and Ecuador countries want debt relief for conservation. Is China ready to play a role? Main content. 1 Texas RFK Junior Lack of Knowledge of Science and Medicine RAWSEP View Measles Vaccine Misinformation leads family led by father who is a vaccine skeptic to refuse vaccines for his children. They all survive, but how many people did they pass measles on to? Excerpt edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, June 22, 2025 and January 23, 2025 Texas Family Measles Outbreak within U.S. Largest in a Generation. Photo of a family of 6, a father, mother, and 4 children standing in a field they were part of. The biggest measles outbreak in a generation. The measles outbreak in the United States is now in its 11th month with almost 2,000 cases. The T family were some of the first people to get sick. 5 members of the T family were hospitalized for their symptoms for measles after the coughing fits, the head to toe body aches, the chest pains that felt similar to a heart attack, the relentless nausea, the fevers of 105, the 911 calls, the sleepless hospital nights, and then the long weeks of what doctors termed healing. Unexplained rashes, chronic fatigue, brain fog, more coughing fits. The father KT and his family eventually made a full recovery from the measles. The West Texas family was at the heart of the biggest outbreak in a generation last spring, with 5 family members hospitalized for their symptoms, including 4 unvaccinated children who were treated in a Lubbock hospital during the same week. Now the twin boys are back to playing on the high school baseball team. The youngest daughter, 9, is performing in the Nutcracker. The entire family has returned to the rhythms of school and church, where they often see the controversial doctor who helped treat them, Dr. B. E., a prominent vaccine skeptic who aligned himself during the outbreak with Health Secretary RFK Jr. Dr. B. E. He treated hundreds of children for measles with cod liver oil and vitamin A at a makeshift clinic over the last year, seeing some patients while he was infected himself. He was recently honored for his work by an advocacy group against vaccines, the Children Health Defense, which named Dr. B. E. its Defender of the Year. It has been a pretty happy ending to a very scary story, said the mother CT, who was vaccinated against the measles as a child and stayed healthy, while her husband and 4 children fell sick. It took everyone a few months to start feeling like themselves again, but I finally feel confident saying it is behind us. What continues is the outbreak itself, which began in a Mennonite community outside of Lubbock and spread across the country over the last 11 months. There have now been almost 2,000 measles cases and 3 deaths in the United States this year. If the virus continues to spread into late January, the United States will lose its official status as a country that eliminated the measles, which it attained 25 years ago. More than 90% of cases in the last year were among people who were unvaccinated, and that vulnerable population continues to grow in Texas. The vaccination rate among kindergartners dropped to 93% this fall, the lowest number in 15 years. Thousands more people each year are making the same calculations as the T family, filing for conscientious exemptions to vaccine mandates as they weigh the infinitesimal risk of vaccine injury against the realities of the disease. It is a decision we thought long and hard about, the mother CT said. Some people call us the measles family. Now I guess you could say our kids earned their immunity the hard way. 2 headlines. The New York Times, December 27, 2025 Ageism. Pet shelters will not let my mother adopt a dog. Can I pretend it is for me? The New York Times Business. Why the Sears' last great hope was a promise that never materialized. The New York Times. California Republicans. A wealth tax floated in California has billionaires thinking of leaving. The New York Times. California drops lawsuit over $4 billion federal cut to high-speed rail project. The New York Times. China. What went wrong before the Hong Kong inferno? The New York Times. Idaho crime police respond to report of a shooting at an Idaho office of a sheriff. The New York Times. Kentucky bully jury declines murder charge against parent in Kentucky state shooting. The New York Times. Medicine and Science. Kidney donors. How one father created an organ empire. The New York Times. Medicine and Science. It is time to give the ovary some more respect. The New York Times. Music film song sung blue review. A Christmas Caroline. The New York Times. Music science. Before this physicist studied the stars, he was one. The New York Times. Music. Republican Washington, D.C. Kennedy Center chief threatens legal action over canceled Christmas concert. The New York Times. New York City man arrested in fatal stabbing of CVS worker on Long Island. The New York Times. Somalia. Israel recognizes Somaliland, drawing international rebukes. The New York Times. South Africa. Trump invited white South Africans to America. 1 ended up in detention. The New York Times. Texas. Dallas considers moving from iconic City Hall. Could it be torn down? The New York Times. Texas measles. RFK Junior lack of knowledge of science and medicine. This Texas family was part of the biggest U.S. measles outbreak in a generation. The New York Times. Thailand and Cambodia reach Ceasefire in brutal border war. The New York Times. Trump failing economy. More student loan borrowers are shedding debts in bankruptcy. The New York Times. Ukraine. Russia pummels Kiev before Trump. Zelensky meeting. The New York Times. Ukraine. Some GOP senators join Democrats in urging Trump to adopt hardline with Putin. The New York Times. Ukraine. This Ukrainian soldier spent more than a year on the front line. The New York Times. Ukraine. Zelensky will meet with Trump over the weekend to discuss Ukraine peace plan. The New York Times. Venezuela in 1902, a dancing dictator and bankers in chains. The other Venezuela blockade. The New York Times. 3 headlines. The Guardian. December 27, 2025. Business. The deals are not done yet. 25 of the best after Christmas sales in the U.S. Life and Style Day. Guardian. Medicine and Science. California woman delivers healthy baby after essentially unheard of ectopic pregnancy. California. The Guardian. Music. Washington, D.C. Trump lawsuit. Kennedy Center president demands $1 million from musician who canceled Christmas Eve to show Donald Trump. The Guardian. Nevada. Musk. How Las Vegas police ended up with a fleet of free Tesla Cybertrucks. Tesla. The Guardian. New Year's Eve. The year in patriarchy. The Taylor Swift engagement. Trump 2.0 and the Epstein files. Arwa Madawi. The Guardian. Republicans. A conversation between Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson summed up 2025 for me. And not in a good way. George Monbiot. The Guardian. Republicans dragged down by an unpopular president. Republicans are bracing for a midterm trouncing Donald Trump. The Guardian. Trump Epstein fallout. Republican behind Epstein files act responds to Trump lowlife taunt Donald Trump. The Guardian. Trump FBI. Republicans FBI to move out of brutalist J. Edgar Hoover building in Washington, D.C. FBI. The Guardian. Trump idea. Trump is shamelessly covering America in his name. Mohammed Bazi. The Guardian. Ukraine. Zelensky to hold talks with European leaders amid fresh strikes on Kiev. Ukraine. The Guardian. United Kingdom. Far right. It is frightening how far right is infiltrating everyday culture. The far right. The Guardian. United Kingdom cartoons. 2025 a year in political cartoons. From a Bond villain Trump to a toppled Prince Martin Rousing, Ella Bear, Nicola Jennings, and Ben Jennings. The Guardian. United Kingdom. Far right U.S. capitalism casts millions of citizens aside, yet Badenoch and Farage still lauded Philip Inman. The Guardian. Headlines. The Atlantic. December 27, 2025. For illiteracy. America is sliding toward illiteracy. The Atlantic. October 14, 2025. Excerpt edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Declining standards and low expectations are destroying American education. The past decade may rank as one of the worst in the history of American education. It marks a stark reversal from what was once a hopeful story at the start of the century. American students registered steady improvement in math and reading around 2013. This progress began to stall out and then to backslide dramatically. What exactly went wrong? The decline began well before the pandemic, so COVID-era disruptions alone cannot explain it. Smartphones and social media probably account for some of the drop. But there is another explanation, albeit one that progressives in particular seem reluctant to countenance: a pervasive refusal to hold children to high standards. We are now seeing what the lost decade in American education has wrought. By some measures, American students have regressed to a level not seen in 25 years or more. Test scores from NAEP short for the National Assessment of Educational Progress released this year show that 33% of 8th graders are reading at a level that is below basic, meaning that they struggle to follow the order of events in a passage or to even summarize its main idea. That is the highest share of students unable to meaningfully read since 1992. Among 4th graders, 40% are below basic in reading. The highest share since 2000 and 2024. The average score on the ACT, a popular college admissions standardized test that is graded on a scale of 1 to 36, was 19.4, the worst average performance since the test was redesigned in 1990. 5. Indiana Carlisle Here is how the AI crash happens. The Atlantic. October 30th, 2025. Excerpt edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Here is how the AI crash happens. The U.S. is becoming an NVIDIA state. The AI boom is visible from orbit. Satellite photos of New Carlisle, Indiana, show greenish splotches of farmland transformed into unmistakable industrial parks. In less than a year, there are 7 rectangular data centers there, with 23 more on the way. Inside each of these buildings, endless rows of fridge-sized containers of computer chips wheeze and grunt as they perform mathematical operations at an unfathomable scale. The buildings belong to Amazon and are being used by Anthropic, a leading AI firm, to train and run its models. According to one estimate, this data center campus, far from complete, already demands more than 500 megawatts of electricity to power these calculations, as much as hundreds of thousands of American homes. When all the data centers in New Carlisle are built, they will demand more power than 2 Atlantas. The amount of energy and money being poured into AI is breathtaking. Global spending on the technology is projected to hit $375 billion by the end of the year and $500 billion in 2026. 3/4 of gains in the S&P 500 since the launch of ChatGPT came from AI related stocks. The value of every publicly traded company has in a sense been buoyed by an AI-driven bull market. To cement the point, NVIDIA, a maker of the advanced computer chips underlying the AI boom yesterday, became the first company in history to be worth $5 trillion. 6. Medicine and Science, the vegetative patients who are still aware. The Atlantic. May 16, 2025. Excerpt edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The mother who never stopped believing her son was still there. The Toyota pickup hit the tree that May morning with enough explosive force to leave a gash that is still visible on its trunk 39 years later. Inside the truck, the bodies of 3 teenage boys hurled forward, each with terrible velocity. 1 boy died instantly. A second was found alive outside the car. The 3rd boy, Ian Berg, remained pinned in the seat of the driver, where brain met bone. Brain gave way when the jaws of life freed him from the wreckage. Her son, IB, was still alive, but unconscious. Please do not die. Please do not die. Please do not die. His mother, EB, pleaded over him at the hospital. She imagined throwing a golden lasso around his foot to keep him from floating away, and IB did not die after 17 days in a coma. He finally opened his eyes, but they flicked wildly around the room, unable to sink or track. He could not speak, he could not control his limbs. The severe brain injury he had suffered, doctors said, had put him in a vegetative state. He was alive, but assumed to be cognitively gone, devoid of thought, of feeling, of consciousness. EB hated that term. Vegetative, an unhuman type classification, she thought. If you had asked her then in 1986, she would have said she expected her 17-year-old son to fully recover. IB had been handsome, popular, in love, with a new girlfriend, the kind of golden boy upon whom fortune smiles. 7 New York Fort Ticonderoga, What It Takes to Be a Revolutionary War Reenactor. The Atlantic, October 8, 2025. RAWSEP View Teaching children to cook over a wood-burning open fire was stymied by the weather. Hallelujah. The food should have been cooked using clean energy, such as by an electric stove and range powered by electricity indoors from a smart electrical grid, extending to all rural areas, powered by clean energy, wind, solar, or geothermal electricity, saved as needed on industrial batteries. After the food was cooked, it could be sent out to the reenactors, and the reenactors could do what they were there for, to act as if they were in the 1700s, when we in actuality are in the 2020s, at a time when air pollution from indoor or outdoor wood burning is obsolete for health and environmental reasons, and most importantly, in the 2020s, clean energy for home heating and cooking is cheaper for consumers than burning air polluting wood that causes illness and early death. In the 2020s, the reporter was a woman, and the editor of RAWSEP suspects that she was not allowed to reenact primarily because she was a woman. Excerpt edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, America at 250. Benedict Arnold had been growing hunkier all afternoon, incarnated at the moment by CG, the director of interpretation at historic Fort Ticonderoga. Arnold had spent much of this May Friday on horseback. 60 rain-numbed Revolutionary War reenactors had sloshed in his wake, marching up forest trails and past a Texaco station in period-correct leather buckle shoes not engineered to withstand repeated impact with the modern Vermont asphalt highways and period-correct wool coats, now ponderously wet. A local resident hollered from his farmhouse Saturday morning would mark the 250th anniversary of the seizure of Fort Ticonderoga in 1775 by the Green Mountain Boys, a rumbustious militia of proto-Vermonters who spent years violently defending their bite-sized territory. But so far the rain was, at best, blighting, and at worst obliterating every enriching activity the Fort Ticonderoga staff had dreamed up. A plan for the reenactors to sleep under starlight when we had arrived on Thursday had been downgraded to a plan to shiver in a barn all night. A plan to shoot muskets had been canceled. A plan to teach elementary-aged children how to cook a meal over an open fire in a town green had devolved into a horde of famished, filthy adults flooding into a schoolroom, propping their dripping muskets against shelves of picture books and scavenging pencil-shaped cookies left over from Teacher Appreciation Week. Everything was going less smoothly than it had in 1775. The partially defrosted reenactors, under supervision, individuals who had come from as far away as North Carolina, who had had to submit color photos of themselves in 1770s-era clothing and proof of insurance to be granted the privilege of portraying 18th-century guerrillas camped out again tonight. There was likely to be a mass hypothermia event, and so the majority of the group, approximately 40 men in 18th century clothes, one 16-year-old boy in 18th century clothes, and one reporter who had been explicitly forbidden from attempting to wear 18th century clothes because a senior member of the Fort Ticonderoga staff had insisted she did not possess the fortitude to dress in leather breeches and buckle shoes for the first time while hiking 18 miles while conducting interviews, had crammed into a one-bathroom family lake house for the night. 8 Sociopaths, a defense against gaslighting. Sociopaths, The Atlantic, April 10, 2025. Excerpt edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, a defense against gaslighting. Sociopaths. If you can recognize their signature move, then forewarned is forearmed. What just happened? You are asking yourself, you knew the conversation would be tricky because you had to tackle someone about their misbehavior. Maybe it was a colleague who claimed your work idea as their own. Maybe it was a new friend who said nasty things behind your back. Or maybe it was a romantic partner who was unfaithful. The evidence is incontrovertible, so much so that had the boot been on the other foot, you would be confessing your error and asking for forgiveness, but that is not the method of operations. MO of this person: no, in the face of clear wrongdoing, they denied everything. Instead of showing contrition, they counterattacked, maybe even accusing you of the very behavior they committed. To top it off, they played the victim and cast you as the real offender. The whole interaction left you upset and confused, even questioning your perception. Is it possible that you got the whole thing backwards? 9 Trump idea. One word describes Trump. The Atlantic, February 24, 2025. Excerpt edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. 100 years ago, a German sociologist explained precisely how the president thinks about the world. What exactly is Donald Trump doing? Since taking office, he has reduced Trump effectiveness by appointing to essential agencies people who lack the skills and temperaments to do their jobs. His mass firings have emptied the civil service of many of its most capable employees. He has defied laws that he could just as easily have followed. For instance, refusing to notify Congress 30 days before firing inspectors general. He has disregarded the plain language of statutes, court rulings, and the Constitution, setting up confrontations with the courts that he is likely to lose. Few of his orders have gone through a policy development process that helps ensure they will not fail or backfire, thus ensuring that many will. In foreign affairs, he has antagonized Denmark, Canada, and Panama, renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, and unveiled a Gaslighting plan. For good measure, he named himself chair of the Kennedy Center, as if he did not have enough to do. Even those who expected the worst from his re-election, I among them, expected more rationality. Today, it is clear that what has happened since January 20th is not just a change of administration, but a change of regime, a change that is in our system of government. But a change to what? 10 Germany How Hitler Dismantled a Democracy in 53 Days. The Atlantic, January 8, 2025. Excerpt edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. How Hitler Dismantled a Democracy in 53 Days. He used the Constitution to shatter the Constitution. A photo of Adolf Hitler and his cabinet on January 30th, 1933, the day he became Chancellor of Germany. 92 years ago this month, on Monday morning, January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed the 15th Chancellor of the Weimar Republic in one of the most astonishing political transformations in the history of democracy. Hitler set about destroying a constitutional republic through constitutional means. What follows is a step-by-step account of how Hitler systematically disabled and then dismantled German democratic structures and processes in less than 2 months, specifically 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, 8 hours, and 40 minutes. The minutes, as we will see. Mattered photo of Hans Frank served as the Hitler private attorney and chief legal strategist in the early years of the Nazi movement, while later awaiting execution at Nuremberg for his complicity in Nazi atrocities. Frank commented on the Hitler uncanny capacity for sensing the potential weakness inherent in every formal form of law and then ruthlessly exploiting that weakness following his failed beer hall putsch of November 1923. Hitler had renounced trying to overthrow the Weimar Republic by violent means, but not his commitment to destroying the German democratic system and determination. He reiterated in a Legalitatio et Egality oath before the Constitutional Court in September 1930, invoking Article 1 of the Weimar Constitution, which stated that the government was an expression of the will of the people. Hitler informed the court that once he had achieved power through legal means, he intended to mold the government as he saw fit. It was an astonishingly brazen statement. So through constitutional means? The presiding judge asked Joel. Hitler replied by January 1933, the fallibilities of the Weimar Republic, whose 181-article constitution framed the structures and processes for its 18 federated states, were as obvious as they were abundant. Having spent a decade in opposition politics, Hitler knew firsthand how easily an ambitious political agenda could be scuttled. He had been co-opting or crushing right-wing competitors and paralyzing legislative processes for years, and for the previous 8 months, he had played obstructionist politics, helping to bring down 3 chancellors and twice forcing the president to dissolve the Reichstag and call for new elections. Headline: Inside Climate New, December 27, 2025. 11 China and Ecuador countries want debt relief for conservation. Is China ready to play a role? Excerpt edited for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Inside Climate News, December 21st, 2025. Ecuador: How the Beijing $1 trillion development plan is reshaping the globe and the natural world. Limon and Danza, Ecuador. $49 billion is owed by Ecuador to foreign creditors and is paying billions more just to service the debt that instead could be spent on urgently needed environmental protections. In 2024, through a deal known as a debt for nature swap, the Ecuadorian government was able to refinance some of its costliest privately held debt for pennies on the dollar and replace it with a lower interest, longer maturity bond. In return, Ecuador agreed to expand protections across its Amazonian region, which spans about half the country. Debt swaps for nature development projects and more are not new. Western creditors have been experimenting with versions of them since the 1980s. In recent years, countries such as Seychelles and Barbados have executed deals with private creditors like commercial banks, mobilizing hundreds of millions of dollars for conservation. Now a small chorus of academics and policy thinkers is looking beyond traditional lenders to one with massive and untapped leverage: China through its $1.3 trillion Belt and Road Initiative. Beijing has become the largest bilateral creditor in the world by financing mines, ports, power plants, and infrastructure in countries across the developing world. The China opaque lending practices make it difficult to know exactly how much these countries owe, but experts say it could exceed hundreds of billions of dollars. Those massive figures caught the attention of economist and China expert Christoph Netapil Wang, who was among the first researchers to see an opportunity in them. In 2021, he and his colleagues wrote a paper advancing the idea that China could help countries redirect some of that debt into conservation efforts. Belém was billed as a break from past summits, but the mechanics looked familiar. Packed halls, curated backdrops, and diesel-powered infrastructure revealed how the annual climate talks continue to reproduce the same high-carbon rituals, even as they promise transformation. Still, indigenous representation helped give the climate conference a stronger moral center than the preceding talks. Leaders and activists from the Amazon and other regions spoke with authority about land memory and survival, to some degree revitalizing the legitimacy of the entire process, but some indigenous participants warned that visibility was not the same as agency. As one protester put it, the summit also used indigenous people by inviting them to embody values and urgency, but rarely empowering them to shape outcomes. Once the cameras moved on forests, rivers, and oceans, and their long-term defenders were more central to the story than before. But the institutions of global climate policy, with their timelines and hierarchies, seem remarkably resistant to fundamentally changing course. COP30 suggested possibilities and constraints. The stage can be redesigned and the cast and symbols can change, but the plot will not until there is a power shift.
Red Green Fox here. The quick red green fox jumped over the barriers to clean air. Red Green Fox here. Ready to sing to you the names of the 2025 major wood-burning biomass industry subsidy opponents. 1. Biofuel Watch. 2. Bulkley Valley Stewardship Coalition of British Columbia, Canada. 3. Kommite Schön Luft, which means Beautiful Air Committee in German. 4. Dogwood Alliance. 5. Equity Group Foundation, nicknamed EGF. 6. Environmental Paper Network, nicknamed EPN. 7. Natural Resources Defense Council, nicknamed NRDC. 8. Prakaunia Narzexwissenskap Istet, which means Workshop for All Beings in Polish. 9. Rachel Carson Council. 10 Solutions for Our Climate, nicknamed SFOC.
Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. Saying the quiet part out loud. Roar. Hi, I am Tiger. Our human asked us to get up from our naps and start Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. She gave us a list of internet allies which we will post for her here.
Hi, I am Leone. It is better for your mental fitness to go to these websites than to go to bro sites for advice. Substack letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. Substack your local epidemiologist. The Midas Touch. The Guardian. The New York Times.
One introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree. But it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom. The Eco-Design Wood Stove International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.